and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! This is a podcast based on a blog of the same name because we're not flashy enough to think of something else. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU, ! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are still being published once per week in mini seasons. Kind of like The Walking Dead. So subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and brand spanking new via Google Play to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows, including, but not limited to, Doctor Who, Downton Abbey, How to Get Away with Murder, Broadchurch, Marvel's Daredevil and Jessica Jones, Once Upon a Time, New Girl, The Vampire Diaries, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Gotham, Supernatural, and The X-Files from its inception through its revival. We've taken a look back at True Blood, Ally McBeal, Futurama, Desperate Housewives, and 6 Feet Under, and more episodes are in the works, including revisits for Orange is the New Black, and new entries in our American Horror Story series. What's more, CPU is gone and will continue to go live. On August 8th, CPU joined forces with Grand Rapids, Michigan-based troupe No Outlet Improv for Comedy Outlet Mondays and was live at Dog Story Theater and streaming live on Facebook to talk Noit's Top 5 TV Comedy Inspirations. On September 26th, we attended Com again, this time with our Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt panel to revisit Season 2, which was live streamed to our Facebook page. Make sure you like us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, and or our Pinterest at CPU Podcast, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play. In the meantime, if you don't hear your show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews and we're always seeking new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any one of our outlets aforementioned. At the very least, stop by and leave a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback, as long as it's constructive feedback. That's very important. Today, we are around the water cooler and continuing another of CPU's podcast series. This series won't have a fixed number of episodes like other series we do. Rather, it will be ongoing and will cover a growing number of shows that seem to increasingly fall under one large umbrella, expanding into a well-made, quite popular universe of comic book adaptations, as the interest in such adaptations also grows. With that said, today's episode is part 3 of our DCTU expert panel discussing the DC television universe, or television programs adapted from DC comic book properties that have morphed and expanded into one universe across shows, but now on the same network. In this third episode of our DCTU podcast series, we're discussing the first and second seasons of the Arrowverse's first spin-off, The Flash. The Flash is an American television series developed by Greg Berlanti, Andrew Kreisberg, and Jeff Johns, airing on the CW. It's based on the DC Comics character Barry Allen, aka The Flash, a costume superhero crime fighter with the power to move at superhuman speeds. The series follows Allen, portrayed by Grant Gustin, a crime scene investigator who gains superhuman speed, which he uses to fight criminals, including others who've also gained superhuman abilities. Initially envisioned as a backdoor pilot, the positive reception Gustin received during 2 appearances as Barry on Arrow led to executives choosing to develop a full pilot to make use of a larger budget and to help flesh out Barry's world in more detail. The Flash premiered in North America on October 7, 2014, where the pilot became the second most watched premiere in the history of the CW after The Vampire Diaries in 2009. It's been well received by critics and audiences and won the People's Choice Award for Favorite New TV Drama in 2014. The second season premiered on October 6, 2015, with the series renewed for a third season scheduled to premiere on October 4, 2016. The series, together with Arrow, has spun characters out to their own show, now known as Legends of Tomorrow. After witnessing his mother's, played by Michelle Harrison, supernatural murder and his father's, played by John Wesley Shipp, wrongful conviction for the crime, Barry Allen is taken in by Detective Joe West, played by Jesse L. Martin, and his family. Allen becomes a brilliant but socially awkward crime scene investigator for the Central City Police Department. His obsession with his tragic past causes him to become an outcast among his peers. He investigates cold cases, paranormal occurrences, and cutting-edge scientific advancements that may shed light on his mother's murder. No one believes his description of the crime, that a ball of lightning with the face of a man invaded their home that night, and Allen is fiercely driven to vindicate himself and to clear his father's name. 14 years after his mother's death, an advanced particle accelerator malfunctions during its public unveiling, bathing the city center with a previously unknown form of radiation during a severe thunderstorm. Allen is struck by lightning from the storm and doused with chemicals in his lab. Awakening after a 9-month coma, he discovers he has the ability to move at superhuman speeds. Dr. Harrison Wells, played by Tom Cavanaugh, the disgraced designer of the failed particle accelerator, describes Barry's special nature as metahuman. Allen soon discovers that he's not the only one who was changed by the radiation. Allen vows to use his gifts to protect Central City from the escalating violence of metahuman criminals and is aided by a few close friends and associates who guard his secrets. 6 months after the events of the first season, after a singularity event, the Flash is recognized as Central City's hero. However, the event brings an evil from a parallel universe to Central City in the form of the speedster Zoom, played by Teddy Sears but voiced by Tony Todd, who seeks to eliminate everyone connected to the Speed Force throughout the multiverse. Harrison Wells' parallel universe counterpart and his daughter, Jessie, played by Violet Bean, work to help Barry and his friends stop Zoom. Joe and his daughter, Iris, played by Candace Patton, struggle with their shared painful past related to their family, especially after the arrival of Iris's brother, Wally West, played by Keenan Lonsdale, whom Francine West, played by Vanessa A. Williams, gave birth to shortly after abandoning her family. After Zoom kills Barry's father, the season concludes with Barry traveling back in time to save his mother's life from the Reverse Flash. Today, in the 3rd episode of our DCTU series, we will be focusing specifically upon Seasons 1 and 2 of The Flash, and it should be noted that all of our panelists have viewed all of the episodes in these seasons and may discuss sensitive plot points. So, for those of you who haven't watched The Flash, listen at your own risk, as there may be major spoilers. Well, welcome back to our DCTU panel consisting of Jen, Spencer, Kylie, and Hilary. How are you?
Awesome!
Are you excited? I'm not even going to ask because the answer will be a resounding yes. Are you excited?
Oh, yeah.
Hell to the yes. Maybe.
They were slightly more excited to talk about this show than they were to talk about Arrow.
And we liked Arrow.
So, we're going to go through the standard CPU intro. What I'd like you to do is to tell us, I already have, but tell us again what your first name is and how you came to start watching The Flash, what made you start watching, how did you find out about it, what kept you watching, and then you get to rate your interest in the show. And of course, I have the CPU standard character question, which changes with each show we do. Are you ready for this question?
Aye.
I'm ready to rumble. Let's go.
All right. How would you rate your interest in The Flash? Do you watch it because you're a big Flash fan and or because you can suddenly run really fast and are always motivated to do the right thing, like the born hero you are, like Barry Allen, a.k.a. The Flash? Do you watch it because you're a Flash fangirl and you don't care who knows it? In fact, you are motivated to tell the truth about him so much you decide to become a journalist to uncover who he is and to report on his heroic exploits. Also, after you find out, you realize you really love the guy wearing the Flash costume, like Iris West. Do you watch it because you're scientifically motivated to support the Flash's efforts and to make sure he and his legacy are healthy? You also realize he's a great friend to you, and it's comforting to watch him, particularly during times of grief due to the loss of the love or loves of your life, like Caitlin Snow. Do you watch it because you're a lover of all things pop culture, particularly films, video games, and comic books, and are geeked out by all of the meta references to current pop culture, as well as to the discovery of new meta-humans, so much so you're in the game and current champion of naming all of them? Also, you like to build cool gadgets and support the Flash as the scientifically advanced genius and best friend you are, like Cisco Ramon. Do you watch it because you believe in the Flash, either as a measure for yourself, since you're not who you say you are, or as a measure of the good in the world, like Harrison/Harry Wells, sometimes posing as, spoiler, Eobard Thawne, a.k.a. the Reverse Flash? Do you watch it because you like the family aspect about the show? The Flash is like an adopted son to you, and you are supportive of the story he's creating, like Joe West. Or do you watch it but you don't like it? In fact, you're ready to take down the Flash and all he stands for, like the myriad of actual Flash villains that appear, including but not limited to Captain Cold, Heatwave, Reverse Flash, Zoom, Gorilla Grodd, Trickster, and the list literally goes on. They've really delved into the annals of the Flash comics for this show. So, take it away, panel.
I'm all of them except the villains.
Yes!
I love every one of them.
This is Spencer, by the way.
Yeah, this is Spencer. I started watching Flash purely because the crossover when it was introduced in Arrow, and I was so excited after that episode when they said that they were doing the spin-off, and it's the best show on TV.
All right. And you're all the characters but the
I'm
villains.
all the characters except the villain. Well, maybe not the fangirl ones.
So you're all the male characters?
I'm all the male characters, yes.
Okay, welcome back.
I will not embrace my feminine side.
I don't even know how to respond. Other than welcome back, Spencer.
Thank you.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Kyle. I'm
Hi, Kyle.
a lifelong comic book fan, so
It's
I would always watch a Flash show. I watched the original when it aired when I was 5, because I was already reading Flash comic books by then. And pretty much this version, me and my wife got to see it a year early, because they released it for Comic-Con.
His wife is
which
right
was
here.
amazing, by the way, but then you had to watch the pilot, and then you have to wait a whole another year, essentially, before this actually airs. Have fun. But out of that list, I would say I'm probably closest to Cisco, because I am obsessed with everything pop culture, and the Flash especially. But I also like to say Eobard Thawne, because he is the Flash's biggest fan before he goes crazy.
That's what it says. You watch it because you believe in the Flash as a measure for yourself.
Yes.
Well, welcome back, Kyle.
Hi, I'm Hilary, the wife. We always have this conversation.
And who are you also?
I am... What do you mean?
That's
In
the way
terms
she
of my
defines
character?
herself.
Oh, yes. I'm also the moderator sister.
Right.
Sorry. Brain fart. Anyways, very excited to talk about this show. And yes, we knew it was coming for a long time. So I pretty much already knew I was going to watch it. But when they introduced Grant and Arrow... he had instant charm and was instantly lovable. So we pretty much knew we were going to tune into the actual show itself and watch it in real time, and I was very excited to do so. In terms of the characters themselves, yeah, I'm kind of feeling like Spencer right now. There's so many emotions. I feel like I'm a lot like Barry just because I tend to always try to do the right thing. I'm also like Cisco. I am into lots of pop culture and the references, and Cisco's amazing. And Iris, I think, probably the most in this case. I'm way fangirling. I'm having a hard time not doing it as we speak.
I wrote that one with her in mind.
Which that
And I love
description
her.
also fit Patty.
Yes, really, kind of, yeah, in a way, Patty, which we'll talk about more. But yes, I love the show. I love Barry. I love The Flash. So, yay!
So her feelings are very subtle. Welcome back, Hilary, moderator sister, and wife of Kyle.
Hi, I'm Jen.
Hi, Jen.
And I came to watch the show pretty much like everybody else. Crossover and Arrow. I think I even squealed when I was watching
All right.
it. Of course, I'm going to watch The Flash, and it's my favorite show.
Yeah, it is like...
Like, I have to watch the show or else I will die.
Wow!
So
That's very dramatic
that
for
makes
Jen.
me definitely an Iris. I'm a big fangirl. I'm pretty much a little bit of all of them except for the last one, the villains, whatever.
villains.
But mostly Iris and Barry, probably. So I love
Okay.
this show so much.
Fair enough. Welcome back, Jen. And of course, I'm Kylie, and I started watching The Flash. I wasn't watching the Arrow when my co-panelists were watching Arrow. I actually found out The Flash was coming out because if you know me or you follow the blog, you know that I look to see what's coming out in the fall. And I saw that The Flash was coming out, and being the DC fan that I am, I knew instantly I was going to watch it. The Flash is one of my favorite comics, period, DC comics, period. I also watched the show from the 90s where John Wesley Shipp, who went on to play Henry Allen in this show, actually played Barry Allen and The Flash in that show. It didn't last very long, but I did watch it.
It adds, though, to this show.
It does.
In a lot of ways.
It does. And it's on the CW Seed if you want to catch that either online or on one of your streaming devices. You can watch the old Flash. So I knew I was going to watch The Flash, but I also knew that it was a spinoff of Arrow, and pretty much this panel and probably half a dozen others said, well, you can't watch The Flash without watching Arrow first. So that was my hold up. I had to go back and catch up on Arrow, but I was always going to watch The Flash. As far as my interest in the show, I watch it because I'm a big Flash fan. I love The Flash. I love Barry Allen. I tried to do the right thing, I think. Am I fangirl level? I don't know about that, but I guess I would be, but not in the way they are. Hilary's fanning herself.
I'm trying not to lose my mind right now.
I'm not there. And they said it was, most everybody said it was their favorite show. It would be my second favorite show. My first favorite show is Game of Thrones, though, so it's not like it's, that's a tough competition. But that's just me. We'll go on.
I've never seen that one, so it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Mine either.
I watched Game of
like,
Thrones.
whatever.
What is Game of Thrones? It sounds like musical chairs in the Dark Ages. I don't know.
There is no musical anything.
That really doesn't happen.
They just keep removing a throne every season. I don't
That's
get it.
not what happens either. And that's for Game of Thrones podcast, which we already have. Check it out on the blog. Anyway, we're here to talk about The Flash. And now, because we are taking a first look at The Flash on our DCTU panel, I would like you to rate your interest in the show overall, though I can already anticipate what this is going to be. So, we're going to go around the table and you're going to give it the infamous or famous star rating. Would you rate it 5 stars because you have to watch everything? Holy smokes, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, since TV shows were invented, since whatever you want to say.
Yes.
Wait for the options, Kyle.
You don't need to go through the
I was
options.
answering for the room.
Yes. Like,
If you take the number 8 and it falls sideways, that's the number of stars I'm giving this show.
That's not an option.
It's a new one, specifically for The Flash.
Okay, well, I'm just going to read a couple more. I won't even bother with the bottom 2. So, is it 5 stars? Is it 4 stars because it seems intriguing? You're going to keep watching, but you see possible pitfalls. Is it 3 stars? You're going to give it one more try. There are things you like, things you don't. You'll see which things are allowed to flourish, and then it only gets worse from there, but I'm feeling the resistance to that. So at this point, okay, you each have to rate it in turn with your justification. So if you're going to all do 5 stars, just somebody pick it. And go!
Ladies first.
Kyle, 5 stars easily. Sorry.
Thank you, Spencer, but
There was a moment of silence, so I jumped in.
in all fairness, though, my husband has been like The Flash is one of his like absolute favorite. I mean, he likes many comic books and its characters, but The Flash has always been one of his favorites. So you should go first.
Although,
Hey.
didn't she basically just say what you're going to say?
But yeah. Yeah. 5 stars easily. It's probably the greatest comic book adaptation ever. Just how faithful and how much they love the fans and what they've given us. I mean, just in the first season alone, and they keep up that quality 2 seasons in, and obviously from everything we know about the 3rd season, it's just getting better and better. The writing's great, the casting's great. It's probably the most well-rounded show there is on TV.
Wow.
Yes, I feel obviously very similar. Holy smokes, I was really excited to watch this show, but even in those that very first moment when you are seeing the flashes in Barry's living room when he is a child, I was immediately hooked. It is like the first thing that you see, and just everything about it, like Kyle said, you can tell the people involved with the show are fans themselves. You can tell that they are very involved emotionally, and it resonates, and therefore it has left that effect on me and clearly everybody else in the room. So, holy smokes, I cannot wait to continue to watch the show. Which I've watched it episode in real time every week. No DVR binging, just watching it. I have to. I can't wait.
She made it an appointment.
Yes. Definite appointment.
Yeah, I either watched it live or the following day without commercial, which is also very nice to do.
That is true.
For me, the pop culture references in this show really take it to another level. The acting is just brilliant all the way around. Even some of the cheesy villains that they've had have been brilliantly done. And then so many nods to comic lore and to things. Spoiler alert, bringing Mark Hamill in to play the trickster as he did in the 80s.
Oh my God.
And doing it in such a seamless way where it still made sense. He was still playing the trickster that he had played in the 80s.
And Tina McGee, Mercury Labs, she's playing the same character she played on the old show.
Yes. So, obviously, big fans of the source material that's being used. Being able to get the show to a level where the network could then come in and back it financially to the point where they could do a CG gorilla that looked very realistic. This show really has it all going on, and I said an 8 on its side for the stars. It's a 5-star show, without a doubt. There hasn't been a single moment in the first 2 seasons that I went, oh no, why did you do that? Like, happened quite a bit with Arrow. All of season 3.
Which we covered in
This
our
show-
Arrow season 3
this show-
podcast.
This show has spawned from Arrow and far surpassed it.
I give it a 5. And this is one of those few shows that I actually liked right from the get-go, and it never died. Like, and I can see that whenever it does, maybe 10 years from now get canceled, I want to go back and rewatch the entire thing of it. Like, I don't do that with too many. Like, Buffy is probably one of the few that I've done. But, yeah, I really like this. And I haven't read too many comic books, growing up. My brothers, they did. It just wasn't in the house, so I didn't really. But it's caused me to go buy them recently and get them, so I'm starting to read the comics and stuff. So.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say something slightly surprising to the room, but then it will end in a nice consensus.
Am I going to flip the table and walk out?
No, not that. Don't crack your nut out. That's so hostile.
Although, really, when she said that, she kind of leaned, like, her facial expression towards me, so it's
Yes. Not inaccurate. So if I were to apply the rating to after I saw the very first episode, I would be more in the 4.5 camp. For 2 reasons only. And they are the 2 female characters. I did not like either of them at first. Caitlin, now I have, again, we were talking about this in an off session. I didn't realize that Caitlin Snow, that was Killer Frost's real name. Like, that's not something I've ever put together, which this is a season 2 thing we'll get to. So, and I get where her character kind of started, but when the pilot was airing, she was very caricature, and I was like, oh, who is this person? She's just bringing the thing down. And then I didn't really love Candace Patton's Iris right away. I was struggling to find out where their chemistry, she was playing it very like student council, high school cheerleader, when she's more grounded. Iris is supposed to be a little bit more grounded overall, which she gets to. I don't know if it was a directing thing or a writing thing or an acting thing in that first.
Probably didn't want Big Sister to have that kind of chemistry.
No.
Right from the get-go. It needed to develop.
Yeah, but it wasn't that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm even talking about just general line read chemistry, not romantic chemistry. Okay. I was just trying to get it, which I didn't quite get. I love Jesse L. Martin as Joe. From the jump. I love him.
Probably the best casting for the first episode. It gave credibility, him and Harry Wells.
Yes, for sure. Tom Cavanaugh's brilliant. Grant Gustin's brilliant. I love Carlos.
Yes.
Who plays Valdez, I think, maybe. Yeah, who plays Cisco. Love them. Caitlin grew on me faster than Iris, and that's just because I think they realized she was a caricature and relaxed her very quickly. And part of that was her grief over her fiancé dying, which I get. It wasn't until they did the whole running by the shoreline and restarting the timeline episode when I really started to see the appeal of Candace as Iris. But by that time, I was totally hooked on the show. I love the show. It's now 5 stars for me easily. It just wasn't right away for me. Now, that's not to say that I don't agree with everything else that's been said, including just how wonderfully and lovely and impassioned and devoted I think these writers are to this particular comic property. It's made it so much more enriching to watch it, because if you're not as familiar with the comics, it's not as big a deal because they set it all up so very well and bring you into the universe very effectively. Everybody, I brought them down. Okay.
No. I was actually just going to say, in all fairness, like, it doesn't change my opinion of the show, but actually at first, I actually did have a similar feeling about Candace as Iris West. Like, I kept joking throughout a few of the episodes. I'm like, okay, you're just not understanding. Like, Barry's kind of like, he's too good for you right now. Like, because Grant is so perfect. Mm-hmm. And Kyle always used this line from the comics that has stuck in my mind, where he told me that there was literally a point where Bruce Wayne, who of course is Batman, basically is saying to the other members of the Justice League, or to somebody in the Justice League, that Barry is the best of all of them. Mm-hmm. He is the best man of all of them. And I think that they've done a really good job of showing that in the show so far. And I keep thinking about that every single time there's a new episode, and how he always does the right thing. And then when she comes off in the beginning, she is a little bit standoffish, but I can see how they also needed to develop that relationship, kind of like Spencer brought up. So I think that's fair of you to say that. Like, she wasn't necessarily right away gripping as the others.
Yeah.
I agree with your thoughts on Caitlin.
Yeah.
At first, she was very bland.
Yeah. Well, and there is that aspect, but there's also just the idea. I mean, obviously a lot of the DC comics, and even DC to Marvel and back and forth, there's a lot of similarities and a lot of different things. I think Iris and Lois Lane are very comparable characters. The only difference is Lois Lane has like this blind ambition that until Superman comes along, it's only about the story.
And then she's just blind.
I know. Glasses, it's not a big disguise. Iris is like the girl next door. She's very grounded. She is very, like, swept up in as everybody is in Central or Keystone City in the Flash, but she doesn't come off the same way as Lois, but she still has a lot of those same characteristics, and that's what I felt was missing at first. Now, that's not to say that they didn't.
She kind of developed that gumption.
She developed them, yeah. And so now I'm totally...
By the end of season 2, she is a very likable character.
Yes,
she is.
Extremely.
I think she gets there even in season 1.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she
It just wasn't there right away. And it was a little bit like, okay. I'm going to keep going because I love him so much. And I love all the... And yeah, the casting is brilliant. It's really, really good. It's awesome, actually. So we're going to talk about seasons 1 and then 2, and there's a lot of stuff that happens.
This one's action-packed, folks.
Yes, it is. I would argue that season 2 might quite possibly be way more complicated than season 1, but season 1 was, we're going to call it the Reverse Flash season, because that was the big enemy, big villain of the season, but it was also a season that introduced a ton of the minor characters from Silver Age, Golden Age, basically all the ages of the Flash. So, what did you think of season 1? What did you like? What didn't you like?
Obviously, the number one is Reverse Flash. He is my all-time favorite comic book villain, more so than the obvious is Joker. I love the Reverse Flash. I mean, he's like one of the most overly complicated backstory villains, and the fact that they built him up over every single episode for a full season and make you like him and hate him simultaneously.
Thanks to the brilliant Tom.
Like, I can't think, like, no other villain has gotten the treatment that we've seen for him.
It was so nice that they took a long time to reveal that Harrison Wells was Reverse Flash too. You kind of, sort of, maybe suspected it. There was that thread in there.
But he's so genuine with Barry most of the time, so you can
with
tell he loves Barry in his own way and hates Barry. Well, he loves his Barry. He hates who he knows Barry's going to become. And just Tom Cavanaugh, like, obviously, like, I was so happy they brought him back for season 2 because he is just such a key
That was
part
a
of the show.
huge fear at the end of season
Yes.
1.
Oh, yeah.
When Reverse Flash was gone, I'm like, well, but, uh-oh. And then they did a really good thing.
Yes, they did, which we'll get to. We'll segue there later. I agree. Reverse Flash is also one of my favorite villains. I don't know if he is my most favorite. That's your most favorite. But he is one of my most favorite. He's definitely the best Flash villain. And I think it's just amazing. The whole way they depicted him, and for all the reasons you said, it's so complicated and human, even though it's superhuman too.
Yeah. And just to see him so human on the show, and then, like, if I was to tell you and you've never seen anything Flash, like, oh, he's from 300 years in the future, he's obsessed with the Flash, he travels back in time and makes his own origin, like, it just sounds so goofy and over the top. But they really give him, like, pathos and gravity.
And intelligence. These are all very intelligent characters, which I think is really cool too. Mm-hmm. It's not your normal traumatized characters or your normal endowed characters. These are all people that have they're really smart and they know what they're doing, and they're all trying to interrelate and help each other. Even him at first, because he's got his own agenda, but he also has this sort of parallel track of really caring about Barry.
Yep. And he gets moments with every character. Like, what other show do you see the main villain, like, interact with every single cast member and have his own special relationship with them?
Yeah, not many.
I love the fact that Reverse Flash wants the Flash to be the best version of the Flash that he can be. That's just really cool, because he wants that level of competition almost. He wants to beat him at his best.
Yes. And he knows he himself cannot exist without Barry.
Yes.
And that's why when they're in the
Flash,
secret
Reverse
room, he's always checking the future with Gideon.
Yes. Who's voiced by...
Marina Baccarin.
Thank you.
She was a huge comic book fan.
Yes, she is.
She's in multiple.
Speaking of which, that room from the future with that headline is huge comic book thing, Crisis on Multiple Earths, which is, like, as a comic book nerd, seeing that Flash vanishes in Crisis, which is where Barry dies, saving the multiverse, like, that was really cool. You know, like, the moment you see it, because you see it the first time at the end of the pilot, and then that's when I realized that they were just going full on, like, you know, no beating around it. This was going to be a brilliant adaptation.
And there's lots of little Easter eggs like that, too.
Every episode has Easter eggs. Every episode.
Like, I'd have to go back and rewatch it, like Jen was saying, just to catch them all. Because
pop culture, Easter eggs, everywhere. It's so written by big fans, and that makes all the difference in the world.
It sure does.
Like, even Jay Garrick's helmet appearing at the end of season 1, that was just going to be an Easter egg for hardcore fans, but they saw how the hardcore fans reacted to it, and like, okay, Jay Garrick's in season 2.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to.
I have to tell you, watching The Flash every week with Kyle is quite a treat. Because, and really it's like that with a lot of these things, of course, but again, him being such a lifelong fan, like, I will literally be sitting there on the couch and I am just completely involved in the show, but yet still, he's sitting there, we're watching it, and then she goes there and go, ha! And like point at it and just kind of giggle or just have that fanboy moment. I'm going to say it because he knows what it means right away, and that's the stuff. I mean, I love that. I love that reaction. That's how you know, like Spencer was saying, and like I said in the intro, that they care about how the viewer is going to react. And I feel like we breezed way over Tom, but he is amazing, by the way.
We didn't glaze over that. I thought there was an appropriate amount of appreciation for Tom Cavanaugh. We heart you.
We do heart you.
The first time he stands up out of the wheelchair, you got goosebumps.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yes.
Well, I got goosebumps just when he first says, "Run, Barry, run."
Yes.
Run, Barry, run.
There are a lot of goosebumps moments.
Yes.
And in fact, probably in the first half of season 1, I would say he was the star character.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, he nails the way, like, the way he speaks and everything. And like Kyle was saying, his relationship with each one of them. Like, I'm sorry. When he has that conversation with Cisco and he says that you're like the son that I never had. The feels, the emotions, and then the heartbreak that comes right after that. Like, I was literally like, it's so good.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. No, it's true.
He does such an amazing job.
So what about, well, since we have already connected that he is Reverse Flash, he's Eobard, but he's Eobard wearing a face. There's actually a real Eobard from the future who kills Harrison, spoiler, and then takes on his identity with some future technology.
I liked that they showed that scene where the funny thing was the device he used was very similar to something that was used in another TV show called Fringe. It almost looked identical.
Yes.
Very good show. Which was kind of cool that they took something that made that morphing thing work. That was kind of cool. I enjoyed that. But that was a good scene into itself to really explain. When they explained things in this show, there wasn't anything that made you scratch your head.
Yeah.
It was explained well and concisely. It didn't drone on. It wasn't all flashbacky.
The one, yeah, for sure. The continuity observation on this show is phenomenal. I haven't seen its equal. I think that's another reason why it's the best superhero show, as Kyle said. That's not hyperbole, because they really keep track of everything they've been doing. And then even when they bring back the references later, which they do, for example, with a Reverse Flash appearance in Season 2, they remember everything they set up and they don't deviate from it. And that's the kind of thing that will trap your viewer forever in a good way. Bring them into the fold, because they're not going to have anything to call you out on. So what about some of the other villains we met? Because we met a lot, including, and we have to give him a mention because he's becoming a series regular now for the multiverse, Wentworth Miller as Captain Cold.
Fantastic.
The very first scene I saw him in, I was like, oh, that's cheesy. But he grows on you so quickly.
He does. He just, he's so smarmy. And I love that they paired him with, I don't remember his real name, Dominic Purcell, they were both on Prison Break.
Yes, that was a nice little thing too.
Yeah, I love Prison Break. Well, like especially the first season. But yes, I really loved Prison Break, and to get them back together was amazing.
I just love his cadence. I love his cadence of speech.
Yes.
Flash.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It's half parody to like your mustache twirling villains, but it's half his own like special spin.
And then like he's also obviously, because I'm obsessed with the Flash, one of my favorite villains of all time. And in the comics, I mean, he hasn't been a villain in a long time. He is a hero because he has his own morality. I mean, he's even a member of the Justice League the last couple of years. And I'm glad that they didn't just go straight up villain. And these 2 seasons, you see his transformation too, and his friendship and begrudging respect with Barry develop. And they really did that relationship well too, on top of all these other ones that they're doing.
One thing they did well with Captain Cold was then they gave backstory to him, which a lot of the villains you don't really get a lot of backstory. But when they brought Michael Ironside in to play his father, who was a completely evil git, it just layered him so much more, and it gave you a reason why he was doing what he was doing. But like Kyle said, he has this morality that he's sort of fighting against to a point. Just brilliant storytelling for a villain.
Also launches his possible propulsion to being a Legend of Tomorrow, but we'll get to that when we talk about Legends of Tomorrow. What do we think about Peyton List as Golden Glider, his sister?
See, she's a little flat, but
she's flat in everything. There, I said it! And she's going to be the lead in Frequency this fall.
But I like her with Cisco. Like,
yeah, it's
fun.
Her chemistry with Cisco was good. But that was mostly because of Cisco's reactions.
But that's Cisco's chemistry to everything.
I think it's Cisco. I think it's him. I don't think it's her.
That's true. Any scene he's in is brightened.
Yeah. I mean, when he says to her, you want a little bit of this? Like, that's not going to happen. Like, you can't. Like, sorry. Like, it just makes, like they said, it makes it more fun. And going back to Wentworth, I just like when him and Grant are having their conversation and their banter. I mean, they are so good together. When they are having their conversations about what is right and what isn't, and are you going to help me and are you not going to help me? It's so good.
It is. You can see the mutual respect between their characters, not just the actors, but the actual characters. They have this, we'll fight when we have to because you're on this side of the line and I'm on that side of the line, but I respect you. And quite often it's just a very black and white, but there's definitely that real nice grey area between them that lends to that chemistry.
I love the Captain Cold character on this show. I love his portrayal, and I love that he's quite a bit different from the comic version Captain Cold. But I don't mind it one bit.
And the fact that the weapons are things that Cisco created make that kind of cool too.
True. Becomes obsessed with those guns, I have to say. What about some of the other villains?
I can't believe they did him at all. I mean, it's the most. I mean, as ridiculous as Reverse Flash sounds, a huge telepathic gorilla. I mean,
basically King Kong with mind reading powers
and mind control powers
on a TV budget. Like, you'd think ridiculous guy in a suit, and they make it work. That's
some of the best CG I've seen on TV. It's
I
movie quality CG.
King Shark.
Yeah.
Because I thought Gorilla Grodd was amazing, and then the detail on King Shark.
Yeah, you're like, how are you
going
to make him look right? And then like, oh my gosh, like that really looks like a freaking man shark.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you look at some of the slow motion scenes of Flash himself when things are exploding around him and stuff. They're unbelievable. I mean, it's movie quality stuff. This show couldn't have been made 10 years ago.
That's for sure.
I mean, in like the episode that slows down the fight of Flash and Reverse Flash in the room with his mom, because we see the same scene play out like 3 times, but then seeing it in slow motion with the CGI, them running up the walls and punching each other and kicking.
That's going back to the Goosebumps, people. It's amazing.
It's awesome.
And the suit. Let's talk about the suit here. The suit is so well done.
It is beautiful.
You would think that they'd have had to go Lycra or something. Like a lot of the incarnations of the Flash are Lycra suits. This suit is incredible.
And I like that it isn't the bright, like, kill
it's
your
deep
eyes red.
scarlet
deep
red.
Right.
Fire engine red.
Yeah. And its function. Like, they explain its function and all the little things, like
that
the little
Cisco
lightning
does.
ears, how it's this communication system, and how everything has a point to it.
Well, then when you hit that Flash Arrow crossover, you see where Ollie's suit and Flash's suit have similarities and Cisco's fingerprints on them, which is another cool thing.
Yes, and we'll definitely talk about some of those crossovers. They get pretty big in season 2/4.
Captain Boomerang one was really good. I love Captain Boomerang. See, I'm obsessed with all Flash villains.
You are. But in the first season, what's important to note is that Iris doesn't start off, like you noted earlier, Spencer, as a romantic possibility for Barry, because she's too busy dating, his name is Eddie Thawne, who is Joe's partner on the police force, and we come to find out a distant ancestor, ancestor of Eobard. How did we like that little twist?
Not only a distant ancestor, but basically a direct lineage ancestor,
Yes.
which we'll talk about as we progress here.
So what'd you think?
I really like the actor who plays him. I thought he was, I mean, you're supposed to not like him in a way, because he's like, he's Iris's love interest, and she's supposed to be with Barry, so you're supposed to be like, oh, there's this guy, but he's really likable, I feel.
Likable, but in a way, you're right, you're not supposed to like him, and I really believe that was great writing, that they made you not really like him all the way through, so that, let's just talk about it, the sacrifice he makes means so much more to you as a viewer.
Yes.
You can see what I'm saying. It touched you in a way. It was like, wow, he just made the ultimate sacrifice to save everybody. So you go from not liking him to being, oh man.
Yeah, he was just so good, especially some of the later scenes, like when he's boxing with Barry and just like trying to be a friend with him, and then like after because even Barry at the moment's kind of reacting the same way people that watch the show are, like, I shouldn't like you, but I do. And also, like, a little tidbit, he was supposed to come back as Jay Garrick. Jay Garrick was going to be his doppelganger.
Oh, really?
But they didn't want to take away from his sacrifice by saying, oh, well, he's still out there.
I'm glad they didn't, because the guy who played Jay Garrick was fantastic.
Really good, yeah.
Really enjoyed his
one?
portrayal. Yeah, right.
Well, that's actually a good segue to my next question. So I mentioned in the intro, one of the big setups here is that Henry Allen is framed for the murder of Barry's mother by the Reverse Flash, and the person who plays him is John Wesley Shipp, who played the Flash in the 90s. Well, how do we feel about this little bit of symmetry?
Of course, as a nerd, we loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just a good actor, and he hasn't really done much. I mean, he's done like little dad roles and things, but to give him a meteor part was really good, and it respects the lineage, and even bringing in the Trickster, who is, I mean, Mark Hamill's performance is great. I mean, that's what he based his version of the Joker off of, and I think it works. Like, just seeing him do it in live, I did, because you always hear him do the Joker, and then seeing him reprise that and just keep up the same energy at his age and magnetism. Well, it's just brilliant.
Hey, Mark Hamill is a severely underrated actor who's been pigeonholed as Luke Skywalker for his entire life.
He's more important to me as the Joker, actually. But yes, you can't tell me that you're watching that episode and then he starts to do the iconic laugh.
Yeah.
And you cannot tell me that you weren't sitting there like, yes!
Oh, I was thinking... So let me just point out that in the very first Trickster episode, when there's that sort of copycat, and he says to the copycat, "I am your father," I went, "Oh,
that was another brilliant
works."
Yeah, and they knew they were being cheesy. They play that cheesy, goofy, funhouse music when he says it.
Meta. They're so meta.
It's actually one of my favorite moments out of any of this. It's just such a little moment is when the Flash goes through and vaccinates everybody, and he's just like, "Ugh, that's not sanitary."
Exactly.
Lots of good one-liners. Very good writing on this show. Very good writing. So, the couple things that I want to mention before we transition to Season 2. First of all, we did get the creation of Firestorm in Season 1, which becomes more important as next season progresses, obviously, but Caitlin Snow's fiance, Ronnie, who's played by Stephen Amell's cousin, Robbie, who has done a lot of his own things, too, becomes alive, we find out, because he, in this particle accelerator accident, but also because of military experiments, is merged with, I don't even remember the professor's name.
Martin Stein,
Victor Stein, there you go, played by Victor Garber. What do we think about Firestorm? Because he doesn't go away, so we should talk about him. This is when he got created.
This actually might be the only my only criticism of the show is they bring him in, they have him as a character, they create him as Firestorm, and then all of a sudden they kill him off, but then they bring Firestorm back with someone else, and it never really sat well with me.
That never sat well with me.
And the second Firestorm, he's just not as good as the
Robbie,
first. Yeah.
And I wonder whether there was a contract issue, or I don't know whether it was ever really explained why Robbie was gone.
He doesn't even know. He said that in interviews. And they brought him back in Season 2 as the doppelganger. But...
yeah, that was actually very cool, too.
Because, in the comics that happens, he dies, and there's a second Firestorm, but it happens much later. And I really prefer the chemistry between Robbie Amell and Victor Garber versus what we get in, Season 2 in Legends of Tomorrow. Especially Legends of Tomorrow, you can really see the weakness between them versus...
it could very well be that they didn't want that relationship between Caitlin and Firestorm to get in the way of what they wanted to tell in Season 2 with Zoom.
Oh,
that could be the main reason.
That actually makes sense. I mean, was the trajectory they planned with Zoom storyline, he couldn't be there.
Right.
Why?
Because she would still be... that was her fiancé, they were still in love, and then when he was
killed
off...
married at the end of Season 2 right before he died.
Right.
So you're saying they did it in service of bringing that double in.
So that she could have the relationship with Jay Garrick.
Which humanizes Zoom. That's the only thing that humanizes Zoom, really.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me, as far as it was just a storytelling decision, and it does happen in the comic books where Firestorm is somebody else later on.
Yeah, but I agree that, and of course we will meditate profoundly on the actors in Legends of Tomorrow, but the person playing whatever his name is... Jax, yeah. Jefferson Jax, that's right. Not loving him.
No.
It's because he's not American. He's playing American. Listen to an interview with the character, or the actor. He is very East End London English.
Really?
It surprised the heck out of me when I heard him interviewed, because his American accent is decent, but I think he's losing some of his acting by focusing on his...
That makes sense now. You can tell him a lot of line deliveries, which feel stunted.
Right. He's thinking about how he's saying it rather than being able to just say it.
I don't know. I just still feel like I already had a strong connection with Robbie as Firestorm, that switching it up, I don't like change. And like they were already so good together, because the thing was that the original Firestorm already had those connections with Barry and the other characters, in addition to Caitlin, who they got married right before his version died. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that did contribute to why he's not translating as well, but I think it's still more that, because I get very focused on character. Like, that drives whether a show is good for me or not, that and continuity or accuracy. And if it's not there, then you start to lose me. Like, part of the reason why I keep getting so excited, we're talking about Tom and the way that they all interact with Tom and the way that they all interact with Grant and so on and so on. And like I said, Robbie just, to me, had that better chemistry with the other actors, and therefore the characters.
And I like how they introduced him as kind of a mystery over most of the season. And, like, I remember a lot of it because, like, obviously, Ronnie Raymond, you comic book fan, that's Firestorm. But in the pilot, they tell you, oh, he died. And as a fan, I was like, oh, Firestorm's coming. They're gonna, I didn't tell my wife at that time, because I wanted her to invest into it the way that somebody coming into it with fresh eyes would. And just watching her see that play out, and I was just kind of like watching it to see her reaction to it, and that was fun.
And I don't really know that aspect of the comics very well, but I would agree. Like, I was much more into the relationship between Ronnie and Martin versus Jax and Martin, and maybe he is focusing on trying to affect an American accent, but to me, I feel like it's more than that. I just don't feel there's that kind of...
Well, it's a complete change in character, isn't it? You've got the college graduate versus the younger, more brash, streetwise attitude. Mm-hmm. So that it's such a complete change in character, and it could just be for us as viewers, we don't like change that's that drastic. They explained the change in a good way by killing him off and then having it be a new person to fuse with.
Which they auditioned a couple people too, so it wasn't like, oh, he was instantly the person, and that's season 2. But I just
at least it was explained, and it was explained in storytelling wise. It was explained well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we just all got used to this idea of a very cool Robbie Amell playing the character, and then suddenly it's something diametrically opposite.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily think he's a bad actor. It's just so different from what we liked in season 1 that it's an adjustment period.
I guess. More thoughts on that when we get to Legends of Tomorrow, I guess.
And I'm actually surprised they didn't have Firestorm interact with Lissy Smoke, because she is a Firestorm character in the comics. That's where they brought her from into Arrow.
Well, maybe they will. There's a whole multiverse, Kyle. That could happen. So the big crossover in season 1 with Arrow was when they fought Rainbow Raider, the emotion-affecting villain. Do you remember that?
He was more of a plot device, though.
The Rainbow Raider?
Just so that they could get Arrow and Flash to fight, which is an amazing fight.
That's what I'm saying. This is why I brought it up, Kyle.
I'm just saying, out of the 2 crossovers, I like the Arrow one better because they actually used a Flash villain, Captain Boomerang, versus Rainbow Raider, he was only there just as an excuse for 2 heroes to fight.
That's alright, though, because it was still badass.
And that was a fantastic fight. It really was.
One.
I mean, it's one of those things...
Primed the Captain Boomerang one.
Because you think right away, you're like, man, Barry, even at his beginning, he's actually quite powerful. And you're like, how is Oliver going to handle the situation? Because, he's under, a mind spell kind of thing going on, and so he's all... ragey. And then Oliver comes in and he kind of shows him a thing or two multiple times, and I love that. I love how he's already the seasoned hero and already has the skill set, and then he's Grant is learning, Barry is learning things. He's learning from, Harrison Wells / Thawne, and obviously from his friends and from his family. But then to have this outside person who kind of understands more of his perspective and where he's coming at, it's just so cool when he kind of puts him in his place a couple times.
I will say I really like the outside perspective on Arrow. How essentially everybody from the Flash show pretty much sees him as a serial killer.
Yeah.
People he's put down with his arrows.
That's
Yes.
Because that's one of those things when you're watching it as entertainment, you're like, he's shooting all these goons, killing them. But then, like, when you have a show about cops, and they're like, what? This guy's a maniac. I love that.
Right.
I also love the running joke where every time Dig catches sight of the Flash,
Oh my
just
God.
can't stop.
he's
He's really fast.
That's not freaking you out, man?
Yeah, because up until that point, the Arrowverse
You're
hasn't
fast.
actually seen metahumans. They only
Yeah.
exist in Central City, and then at this point we get that crossover, which is really cool.
Well, like, Barry runs into scene and he's like, whoa, you're fast.
And they just keep going with it. That's the funny thing. And even when Lila sees him the first time, he's like, yeah, he's fast.
Like, calm down.
It's all right.
Calm yourself.
I
But
love the jokes and the kind of the meta humor that goes on. Meta. But I meant meta as in self-referential.
well, like, even when Barry's like, because like they're just like they're testing. I don't remember why right now that they were testing, but Barry's like, you're not gonna get me. I'm gonna be faster than you. And then Ollie's like, I'm gonna get you. And then he shoots off and he gets him with the arrow and he's like, you shot me. The whole exchange is just fantastic.
Well, and I like the little throwaway reference to that in the second season where he's like, when it rains, I can still feel where you shot me.
Continuity.
Well, it even starts with the promo they did for the Flash, where Ollie's shooting the arrows at the target, and Flash comes zipping by and catches the arrows before they even hit the thing. It's like,
I
pretty
recall
quick,
seeing a
aren't I?
gif about that. Jen's like, yep.
Or
You
even
agree with all the things.
I do.
Or even just like in the beginning when they show like Arrow or the Flash, how they cross over their like logos.
And
Yes, I love that. That's creative.
Well, and the music, they blend their music.
They
cues.
do.
Yes, they do.
Themes.
That's
I didn't
creative
even
too.
notice that.
Once you
Now I
notice
have to
it,
go
then
back
you
and
watch
watch
it.
Do it.
I have to. I didn't
You'll-
even notice that.
That's what
But
happens.
the whole crossover there.
They shoot an
that gave me
arrow through the
goosebumps.
Flash
Yes.
logo, and then for Arrow, there's a lightning bolt.
But it's like a green lightning
Like,
bolt.
green
yeah, it's a green light.
It's awesome.
Nerdgasm.
Nerdgasm. So we're trying to kind of transition to season 2. Allow me to help you do that. So at the end of this season, which I have to say this is one of the best season finales I think
Like
I've ever
ever.
seen in my life.
Yes.
It was incredible.
It was amazing. So the whole purpose of the season, Reverse Flash is trying to get Barry fast enough to be able to open these portals so that he can travel back through time toward the future, because he's originally from the future.
He got stuck there.
Yes, actually, due to sort of this accidental portal opening himself.
The whole 20 years that he's been there on Earth, he's been working to this point. He's been designing everything. You said in the intro about the accident with the reactor. It wasn't an accident.
Yeah.
It was designed to create the Flash.
Right.
15 years of Barry's life engineered for one moment.
Exactly. And so what happens is, through the very many machinations and training and fights with all these villains and sort of the emotional stakes, because Barry does learn of his true identity and all of this comes into a head, he agrees to do this, to open this portal, and that involves running around the particle accelerator, or whatever that you call the actual thing where the particles were.
That is.
Yeah. And he opens the portal, but it was already alluded to. Eddie, who is his distant ancestor, sort of sacrifices himself in order to prevent this going back to the future so he can terrorize.
Cuts out the lineage.
Cuts out the lineage, exactly. His death, he dies in sacrifice. And
it was beautifully shot so that
So
you
beautiful.
saw the Reverse Flash going for the portal and then suddenly convulsing and slowly disappearing, and then just plop.
Yes.
And then it panned around slowly, and you see the blood spot start to come out of Eddie.
And you were
it's
like, oh my gosh, like gasps.
Yes, 5
Audible
stars,
gasps.
directors. 5 stars. That was some good TV. But it didn't end there.
No.
It wasn't just that. Because
No.
their efforts did not affect... It opened the portal. It didn't effectively, stop the process. And in the process of opening the portal, it created this singularity, which threatened to destroy the entire planet. So then what happens? Barry runs up into it, and the season ends. What? How did you feel about that? I know I, for one, was hooked for life at that point.
Yeah.
My heart felt like it was going to pop out of its chest. I had so many emotions. Can I just tell you, I was so involved. I probably was in tears at least 4 times during that season finale.
At least when he was
I
saying
cried.
bye to his mom.
When he sang,
Yeah.
oh
Definitely
my
your
gosh.
faucet.
Anytime he talks to his mom, I lose my shit. Okay? Actually, too, when he talks to his dad, and going back to Joe, I wish Joe was my dad. I'm just going to say it.
Oh.
Joe is so...
We won't tell Dad.
No, I'm just saying, okay, well,
That doesn't
he's a
surprise
second
the
dad.
podcast. I would be
He's a
hurt.
second dad for Barry, so I'm just saying, he could be my second.
Okay, got it.
He
Good
plays that role
clarification.
so
So
well.
well,
He really does come across as very paternal.
He
And naturally
does.
so.
Yeah.
He really does. And so, yeah. And actually, it was funny because we just watched the special feature of Kevin Smith, who's a huge comic book fan, if there are people out there who don't know that. And he is literally blubbering like a baby. And that's kind of how I felt during the season finale because it was so emotionally impactful on top of all of the cool things that were happening.
Side note, Kevin Smith is also directing another episode for season 3.
Shut the
Ooh.
front door.
And he's doing a contract to direct at least one episode for each show.
Yes,
he wants
Arrow
to rotate
and
between all the
Supergirl
shows.
and Legends of Tomorrow.
Which is fantastic.
And,
'Cause I maintain Kevin Smith should be the director for Justice League and,
And,
Batman
to give-
Superman would have been a much better choice.
To give
I
him
agree.
some context into this world, Green Arrow comics got canceled. Nobody read it. Kevin Smith was obsessed with it. He had never written a comic book before, but he had clout at that point because all his movies were at their height, and he asked if he could come in and just write his own little story for this dead comic book. And it was hugely received, and it brought Green Arrow back into consciousness. I mean, this show probably wouldn't exist if he didn't come back and do that. So it's kind of amazing that he gets to come back now, 20 years after his comic book run, and revisit this universe.
We'll hit the Kevin Smith episode because that's season 2.
Right,
Although he
next.
did involve one of his best friends and co-star of many of those movies you just mentioned too,
Jason Mewes.
Jason Mewes. But Jen, did you have any thoughts about the first season finale?
The way it ended, I honestly thought the show got canceled or something. I was how's he coming back? Because it was all shredded, his.
No, not at that point.
Isn't that
Was it
mid-season?
that?
That's
Oh, is that the
mid-season.
mean? Okay,
Yeah.
that's when I actually when I saw that I went, I have to Google this.
He runs up into the
He runs up the building with the
singularity,
spinning-
and
Yeah.
there's the thing, and then
yeah.
logo goes across, and
Yeah.
you're like, what happened? That's what happened.
Yes.
That is quite a cliffhanger.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And all I could think
Smart.
about was, oh God, I've got to wait for how long?
Right?
Yes.
Exactly. But not too long when you're talking about this podcast, because then we get to season 2, which becomes vastly more complicated and is otherwise known as the Zoom season. So this is another big Flash villain, but in this telling of the Flash, Zoom is from another parallel universe accessible via this portal.
Earth 2.
Earth 2, they call it, which there was also a show called Earth 2. It's not the same thing.
That is not the same.
So talk about what you liked and what you didn't like about season 2. As far as not liking it, there was nothing. I
was
loved
gonna
all
say,
of it.
I just not even.
It had the potential, with as complicated as it got, to be really disjointed, and they managed it beautifully so it wasn't... Not once was I ever really confused. They explained everything concisely and kept you on the edge of your seat the whole time. Zoom was such a bad villain.
Scary. He was scary.
Yeah, and the way they made him look.
Tony Todd. I mean, come on. You hear
He's
that
got
voice.
the voice.
Oh, yeah.
It was very menacing.
At one point, I thought that Henry Allen was going to be Zoom.
I know, I did too.
Yeah.
There was a brief moment.
Yeah.
Well,
My mind was all over the place, twisted with that idea.
Well, even just like his black costume with the blue lightning electricity around
And
it.
it's
At
very
all
well,
times.
and his
Speed Force.
the organic
Yeah, Speed Force,
face,
but-
like, so you can't even tell, like, at first, is that even a mask he's wearing, or is that his face? I thought that was a brilliant decision.
It was a little reminiscent of the Batman face when he faces Scarecrow, with that kind of melting fear.
Batman Begins.
Very
Yeah.
good.
What they did with Zoom was amazing, too, because, I mean, in the comics, Zoom is just the second Professor Zoom, who is Reverse Flash. So they look identical, they act identical, other than one is Hunter Zolomon. Essentially what they did, because Jay Garrick has a villain called The Rival, who looks exactly like him, but he's all black. And so they merged the two villains into
So
one,
smart.
which was brilliant, because then they really allows him to be his own villain, and not just the cheap second Professor Zoom. And I love that they turned him into, spoilers, Jay Garrick. I love that twist. 'Cause, I love Jay Garrick is one of my favorite comic book characters. Also, I love him. I love his look.
So
his
for
helmet.
those of you not in the know, he's the first incarnation of the Flash.
Golden Age Flash, and when they had him, and then at first I was gonna be mad because then the twist is, and then there's no actual Jay Garrick. He's just a personality for this psychopath.
But he's not!
And then the second twist of the real Jay Garrick, which was amazing, and I loved it, and is
You can say it,
well,
spoiler.
I love that the real Jay Garrick, who's always older than Barry, is the doppelganger of his father.
Yes.
And I love that idea that it's a lineage, like they are connected.
Well, his dad does say, too, in an episode, because Henry Allen has gone off to try to give Barry space to be the Flash.
Oh, yeah, they broke him out of prison.
They broke him out of prison. They basically, like Harrison Wells, Eobard Thawne Harrison Wells says, almost as like a respectful gift to Barry that...
It was mocking.
Oh,
He
okay,
made
well-
it sound regal, but he was mocking him.
There is a backhanded element to
There
it.
is a backhanded element to it, but either way, he basically says that he was the one that did it. And so he gets out of
He
jail.
confesses to the crime.
Yeah, confesses to it. He gets out of jail. He goes, like I said, to give Barry space, and he goes to this cabin, and there's this scene where they're just sitting at the table. He's telling him in this moment that he had lost all of his ability.
And
And
he's
then-
talking about Jay. And
Yeah, like his mother and
his mother's maiden name
his
is
mother's
Garrick.
maiden name is Garrick. And I was like, oh!
I know.
Because there's really so much foreshadowing. You have to pay attention.
Let's talk about Teddy Sears and how great he was
He was
at
brilliant.
playing so many different elements.
Just like Tom
Oh, yeah.
Cavanaugh did.
Teddy, if you're listening, that was amazing.
Thing.
Because it was several different personalities
Yeah, I mean,
all
really,
slipped
he's-
into one.
And really, he's three characters. I mean, he's Time Revenant Jay, he is Jay Garrick regular, and he is full on Zoom.
Yes.
And he played the Hunter Zolomon
Hunter
part as
Zolomon
well,
doppelganger.
and he played that
Oh, yeah.
wild-haired... They showed his creation to being Zoom, which was also fantastic.
And having his history parallel Barry's with the whole father, but his father was guilty, killing his mom.
And he was actually there and witnessed
Yeah.
it, and just...
I mean, Zoom's his history in the comic. He's more of a Wally West villain. In the comics, he's Wally's friend who gets paralyzed, and he tries to use that treadmill in the lab to go in time and stop himself from
Wally
being paralyzed.
West is the third incarnation of the Flash. Barry Allen is the second.
Wally's second. Well, technically,
Barry is second.
I consider Silver. They consider Silver Age as one whole age, so they
Okay.
consider Wally the second Flash. Because then the third one is Bart Allen.
Right.
But anyway, so he's primarily a Wally villain, and he doesn't have any connection to Barry, and the fact that they gave him this whole parallel backstory, which is more interesting than the comic book one, was brilliant.
Speaking of Wally West, which I feel we must hit on, actually. So we find out in this season the big kind of dovetail to all of the stuff happening with Zoom and Jay Garrick, who is not Jay Garrick, and all this Earth 2 stuff is we learn that Iris's mother, Joe's wife, who he told her and who we thought was dead, is actually alive. Alive and dying of cancer.
Yeah.
So she kind of tries to come back to, and we also find out the reason why that he told that lie and split off from her is because she had a pretty bad drug dependency, which is really, really sad. So she tries to come back to basically seek forgiveness or repentance or strike up a relationship, kind of a dying wish sort of thing. And then we learn about the son that Joe never knew he had, and Iris's brother, Wally West.
Just when you start to feel, I feel bad for her, she drops that clanger on them all, and you're like, I don't like her at all.
Yeah, right?
Joe, you made a very wise decision.
Yeah, seriously.
True. And I will say, though, that kind of the bombshell of, oh, by the way, your mother is alive, and I'm sorry I lied to you, kind of felt for Iris in that moment.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, that's kind of a big lie. But she handled it very well. What did we think about Wally West and his portrayer, Keenan Lonsdale, who I do believe they're going to transition to Kid Flash next season. What did we think about him?
Well, just during Flashpoint.
Okay.
They pretty much said that they don't want too many speedsters in the main. But in the altered timeline, what that Barry's going to, they've actually shown clips of him meeting Kid Flash and him in the full costume, which looks amazing.
Okay. Well, either way, we'll still get a taste.
But for most of the season, I was kind of worried because he's annoying, but obviously he's supposed to be. He has a chip on his shoulder.
He's got the chip on his shoulder, he's got the teen angst, he's like, oh, you're my dad, but you've never been there for me. Well, he didn't even know you existed.
Yeah.
So I see where they come from with the character and why he was
and
annoying.
it made sense, and it made his switch over from when he realizes because I mean it's important when Barry gives up his speed for him, and while he's like, why I'm an asshole, like, why are you doing this? And then seeing him transform, and you can see that mindset, he's already Kid Flash, because that's his. He just wants to support Barry and go to the Flash. And like one of the episodes I love is the finale when nobody on Team Flash is trusting Barry's instincts and they lock him up, and then the only person that is like, "What are you guys doing? You have to listen to him." Is Wally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought they handled all of that very, very well, and it wasn't, even though he added a teen angst and he was kind of annoying, it did add a lot of dramatic tension for the West household that to me felt pretty natural, and they handled pretty well and gave some relief from the overarching storyline, which was the Zoom storyline, because if we had meditated on that the whole time, I feel like my insides might have exploded a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. Many episodes, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, so I actually liked him. Yeah, it was a little... all of the kind of the lies around the lies were tedious, but it was also understandable, and they set it up well, and all of the actors in the situation, I think, did a good job, so I bought into it eventually. Jen didn't like him, though.
I think it was the actor for me.
Okay.
Didn't care for that.
Did he grow on you ever?
He did get a little bit better towards the end, but I don't know. I have to wonder if it was somebody different. Would I like that character better?
I really hope they bring back Patty Spivot.
Let's talk about Patty.
Patty was great.
Patty became Joe's partner after much begging.
She kind of felt a little bit like a female Barry Allen.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yes.
Which they incidentally paired the two of them together because, Iris was grieving Eddie and Barry moved on, quote unquote.
Yeah, because he
really.
had admitted all of his lifelong feelings for Iris at the end of season 1, but at the time it was like unrequited.
Technically halfway through season 1 when he altered
That's
the
true.
timeline.
But then again,
Yes.
in the altered timeline.
Yes. Sorry. There's lots of changing things. So.
That'll keep happening. He's the Flash.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, they paired them off together. What'd you think about Patty?
I love her.
Oh,
Yeah, I really liked her.
I liked her as well.
Okay.
I love her a lot. I want her to come back. I thought that they had good chemistry together.
Well, and she stood on her own. Like
She did.
Her scenes with Joe were like, even if she never had that romantic with Barry, I still would have liked
She
her
was a
as
strong
character.
character.
Well, but then it also kind of delved in more because we didn't really talk about how he dated Linda in the first season. And I didn't like her as much, honestly. But Patty, I just felt, I don't know what it was, but like I felt like, you want to feel the emotion with them. And like, because her struggle, she's smart, she's a detective. She started to realize that things were not quite adding up as their relationship continued. And I loved especially like that final episode where she basically is telling him, you just tell me that you're the Flash, otherwise I'm sorry, it's time for me to go. And then at the end, she calls him there and basically is the confirmation that she needed.
A big part of her likability was their on-screen chemistry.
yes.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, because I think without that, I don't know if I would have liked that
Right.
character.
I
Whether
agree.
she stood on her own or not, I think it was their chemistry that made me think,
It was really good. It was,
yeah.
it
She's
was
kind
so
of
believable.
adorable in her own little way. And
Maybe that's why I didn't like Linda as much, because she didn't have that same...
No, you just kind of wanted her to get
Well, Linda,
away.
she's Wally's wife. Like,
Yeah.
she was never going to end up with Barry.
I didn't want her to... Well, I know, I didn't want her to...
not
I'm just saying-
everybody knows
I'm
that.
talking about the, like...
Kyle was like, whatever. And we're like, really?
I'm just more talking about, like, the actress, maybe. I wasn't necessarily...
Sorry, in my mindset, everybody
Melise
knows
Jones,
everything
yeah.
about the Flash.
There was
Yes.
some great scenes throughout the show too. The realization of Barry when he sees himself in that moment where he's
Yes.
time traveled, he stops. He goes, "What
Yes, that was great.
I love
The self-awareness
all those
stuff.
time remnant
Yes.
Yeah.
stuff. That
Yeah.
was really cool. Yes. And then they also developed this velocity serum, which also became kind of a device to introduce what's her name that I now can't think of.
Trajectory.
Trajectory, thank you. What do we think about that? Which was also they were trying to use that to jumpstart Jay Garrick, but really Jay Garrick is a time remnant, I assume. So,
What?
it was a very complicated season. Anytime you introduce time travel into a story, you automatically know it's going to be
And
complicated.
time travel on top of multiple Earths.
And
Yes.
we even ended up with a Dementor from Harry Potter at one point.
I know, we did! I said, well, look.
which would have been really cheesemo, but then they referenced that. Everybody's like, that's a Dementor.
Thank you, Cisco.
Yes.
For all your those.
Cisco is the glue.
He is like, dude, he's like a nerd god. Like, I just...
He's the voice of us. He's basically
He
saying
is.
what we're all thinking.
He's the one I'd like to meet at a Comic-Con.
He would be fun.
He's so funny. Like, all of his one-liners. Like, even in the most, like, intense moments or crazy moments, and then he says one thing, and you're totally wrapped up in it.
His naming of the villains is always very funny too throughout the whole season. There's even the one moment where he goes to name a villain, somebody else says something, he goes, "Yeah, that's better."
Yeah. Or, like, just, like, one of the moments that sticks out for me, just because I just watched it, when Barry kind of helps bring Earth 2 Harrison Wells' daughter Jessie back to consciousness. And Cisco's like, "Are you, like, magic now?" Like, like, all of those little things. It's obviously what he says, but also the way he says it is perfect every single time.
So I feel it would be remiss for us not to mention that Cisco is also meta.
Yes.
Yes, he's...
And
He
his
becomes
power
Vibe.
is that, he becomes
Or
Vibe. He can
Reverb.
open, or Reverb if you're on Earth 2. Basically, his power is he can open these portals and use those vibes, and also see things.
Foreshadowings.
Foreshadowings. So what do we think about him being meta in either Earth or either universe?
It's pretty bitchin'.
I like
Yeah.
it.
And in the comics, that character is goofy. He's really goofy. Like, you can't take him seriously. Like, essentially, he's like the Jubilee from X-Men. Like,
That's
he
what
just,
he
like, shoots
reminded
things
me
out
of.
of his hands. Like, he's a worthless character.
I
He's
actually
such a
said that at
worthless
one point. I was
character.
like, that's a lot like Jubilee.
And when they announced the show that Caitlin Snow and Cisco, I was like, Vibe and Killer Frost, like, that's a really weird combination. But
No,
then
it
they took
works.
the powers that he does have in the comics, but then they found more practical uses for them.
And then upped it when they made him Reverb, because I thought his evil persona,
All of them, when they got to play their own evil selves,
That
must
was
have had
awesome.
so much fun.
they must have. And actually, I wish we could see the Killer Frost version of Caitlyn so much more. Because
Yes, but
she
I
was
don't
fun.
want Caitlyn to turn into Killer Frost.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
I
want that
agree with that.
either.
Especially
Bring,
now
bring
that
us from
she's-
another universe, I'm fine with that, but to actually have our Caitlyn become Killer Frost
She's
would bother
so
me.
part
Especially
of their
now
group
she's
now.
seen Killer Frost.
Right.
Like, the transition, I don't think...
Well,
would
that,
work.
yeah, I would agree with that, but...
I did like the Killer Frost character a
Something
lot, especially...
happens in Flashpoint.
Well, the version, or the point in time throughout the two seasons where Killer Frost was at her best was when she was befriending Caitlyn, because it's so believable that you'd befriend your own self, and it was a complete double cross. That was fantastic.
It was. I really loved all of the Earth 2 stuff. That could have gotten so, like, mind-bendingly hard to follow and too complicated to, like, enjoy, but every step they took was really, really good, to the point that I know they closed off a lot of these portals, but I hope they explore more of them.
Well, I mean, Cisco can open them anytime.
That's
now,
true,
though.
he can.
And Harry Wells as opposed to Harrison Wells, the subtle differences that Tom Cavanaugh brought to the character in season 2.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Just like
and-
Teddy Sears playing the different versions of himself,
Right.
Tom Cavanaugh does it so well.
It's like,
I
I'm the
mean,
same, but I'm not. And
And
it's
the
clever.
one episode where Barry travels back in time to learn from
Oh!
Ubard, and so in that one episode he's playing Harry Wells, Harrison Wells, or Ubard pretending to be Harrison Wells, and Ubard all in one episode, and just like
When he
within minutes you can see all the differences.
When he figures out that Barry has time traveled back and he literally knocks him out, he knows, like, right away. And then he pulls him into that little secret braille room that Cisco calls it.
Well, the funny thing is, Harry Wells tells him, Harrison Wells isn't going to fall for that. He's going to know it's you. He's going to know it's you. And then when that happens...
And then he says to him, you know, he's like, and he's, you know, because, like, he already knows, and he's trying to call him out on it, so Barry tries to, like, vibe out of his handcuff thingy, and then he's like, that is just perfect. You know why? Because my Barry doesn't know how to do that. And he's like, calling it, that whole scene, perfectly acted. Oh my gosh.
That was a great episode.
Oh, it was.
I liked the reveal in season 1 in the Braille room where they're talking to Gideon and Gideon reveals that Barry creates Gideon.
And they're like,
she's
he's
a
like-
founding member
she's
of
like-
the Justice League, and
Yeah.
they cut her off.
Yeah.
She's like, of course. He's like, why would you listen to me? You created me.
I'm seeing the byline with Iris West Allen.
Yes.
All in the same scene. I love that. I love anytime we get the glimpses of the future. That's so... It's amazing.
And
The
they're
whole
married
thing's
on
amazing.
Earth too.
Yeah,
They're
which-
married on Earth.
Because, I mean, that's
too.
one of the things
Shall
in the
we?
comics is like, she's his lightning rod. In every universe, he's married to Iris. In every timeline, he's married to Iris. And nobody else has that.
That's why I love
Clark
that.
Kent,
Yes.
Batman, anybody. But that's a set point for him.
I liked on Earth 2 that
In
Barry
Doctor
Allen was
Who,
just
it
a
would be
dork.
called a fixed
Yeah.
point
Point
in
in
time. It's not wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
Barry Allen being a complete dork on Earth 2 and Iris being the powerful character.
I know.
That was
I
really
loved
fun too.
that. I
Yeah.
loved
I didn't really
That was
like
good.
Joe in Earth 2.
No.
Yeah.
Well, he was a lounge lizard.
But
Speaking of
his
this,
singing was good.
speaking of that, so I just want to mention before we hit the final points on season 2 that they have foreshadowed because Grant Gustin was on Glee.
And is a wonderful singer.
Melissa Benoist, who plays Supergirl, was on Glee. Jesse L. Martin is the original Collins from Rent. They're teasing a musical episode.
Oh, I
Crossover
had
episode.
heard that there was going to be a musical crossover episode, and it's somewhat exciting.
Yes, I'm actually kind of geeking out a little bit. I just hope it's not too cheesy.
Yeah, don't make it
That's
too
what I'm
cheesy,
cautiously not
yes.
excited about that. Because
Well, you
anytime a
wouldn't
show
be.
does that,
Are they going to have their
That's
jump
not
the
fair,
shark
because-
Fonzie moment?
Yeah, it just depends on how far they go with it. It just has to make sense. If they make it like
I'd
too
like
over
to.
the top, then
I'd like to see Ali sing something. Like, I
I don't know if
picture
they're
it.
including Arrow in it, but...
They have to have a villain that makes it all happen.
So who sings in the villains? I don't know. I don't know of anybody right away. But that's the reason why we got Lounge Lizard Joe West on Earth 2 is because he's a Broadway vet from a long time. So
Well, also, it was fitting
still
because if
liked
you
it.
notice in their household, all through season 1 and 2, all his posters are jazz
Yeah.
singer posters, and so I thought like they already had kind of set up that that's his passion, but not in an obvious way.
yeah, for sure. I love the whole entire vision of Earth 2 and just all the different
Yeah, kind of that,
doppelgangers we met.
almost that 50s
Yeah, they made it, like,
motif, but
vintage.
futuristic.
They
I
made
liked
it
that.
a Jay Garrick-esque
Yeah.
kind of world, actually.
so intelligent.
I know.
It's mind-boggling. It's like even if you were to pick pick out how you would do it yourself, it's like I couldn't do that better.
Maybe some of the Gotham writers need to go and just sit in on some of the Flash writer
You've
meetings.
said that before.
You said that many times.
If you listen to our Gotham podcast, Spencer waxes for a while. So, speaking of crossovers, I feel we have to at least hit, because the season 2 crossover was like mega big. because it was
Hawk
multiple
Girl,
parts.
yay.
Well, they were launching Legends of Tomorrow, so they had to introduce Hawkman and Hawkgirl, which are DC properties from way back.
And if you didn't notice, by the 8th time she mentions it, she's a barista.
Yeah,
If you watch Legends of Tomorrow, she mentions it about every 20 minutes.
When I was just a barista, like it's
Before I got my wings.
yes.
A week ago, I was a barista.
Oh, okay. If there was one dating scenario I didn't really believe, it was Cisco dating her.
That is true.
I believed him liking her on a physical level,
Was totally
but once she opened her mouth, he would have been like, never mind.
Yeah.
Right. But even still, like in the first part, when he's like, "Would you like want to go on a date with me?" and she's like, "No," like that sounded right. But then afterwards, she's like, "JK, I'm just new here and I'm a barista, but you're gonna make me like be my new friend," and it just got dorky. I don't like that. I'm sorry. I don't know that actress's name, but
Ciara Renee.
I don't really-
Ciara. It's actually like the real
Like
name.
the real name.
I didn't like her very much. Sorry.
I don't
will-
think anybody did.
I did.
And I will say, though, like, Vandal Savage is at least a lot more interesting in those 2 appearances than he was in the entire run of
Yeah.
Legends of Tomorrow.
Which we'll get to on the
They
Legends of
actually-
Tomorrow
You
podcast.
will.
Yeah.
They actually made him into a threat in there, but then in Legends of Tomorrow, he doesn't really feel anywhere near as powerful, or like you'd feel like Ray in his Atom suit should be able to take this guy out with one punch.
Well, we'll get to that in the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, but I think the real reason is because in this crossover they made Hawkman, Hawkgirl kind of the fulcrum around which both of the episodes, Arrow and Flash, revolved, and so his storyline is tied so intimately with theirs that he seemed more threatening and more menacing. Legends of Tomorrow, even though he was supposed to be the big bad for that show, it was kind of more about them coming together as a team and them finding clues throughout time or getting stuck in time or what's Rory's real mission in life. So Vandal Savage kind of became an afterthought only to kind of
He was a
waggle his
device.
finger and twirl his mustache when needed, basically.
I just didn't like the setup for that as much as I liked, the setup for Barry into the Flash. Like, I know what they were trying to do because it's the formula they already created. I just don't think with those characters I had the same payoff.
Well, and I think it comes down to who they chose to cast as them.
That would probably be, throughout the Flash universe, the only castings that I would say, what?
Yes.
And I think they went more on look than ability.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that all 3 of the actors could reasonably be real-life personifications of the drawings of their characters. But
Yeah, they wanted that kind of Egyptian feel to them, but without going too terribly Arabic, let's say.
yeah.
And they did that well enough, but the acting was not great from all 3 of them, to be honest.
But I still feel like Falk Henschel, who played Hawkman, was probably brought down. Because I thought he had
Possible.
the potential, but he had to play against her, and she brought every scene down she
Yeah,
was in.
and Vandal
So-
Vandal was just one note the entire
Yeah.
time you saw him.
He really was. He had no other setting, basically. So, but, that big mega crossover did give us a lot of, the flashing over to the grave site, but also the realization of Ollie's child and all this kind of...
Ollie's child.
Yeah, all of the... We got the whole cast of Arrow on the Flash, and we got the whole cast of the Flash on Arrow, so that was kind of fun.
That was fun, and all the interactions that came with it.
Yeah, and I did love Barry seeing everybody get killed by the shockwave and just barely running fast enough to get past it.
I loved his part of the crossover because he had to be the, how do we change this? And he's really weighed down and he knows everybody's secrets. And I hate being the one who knows all the secrets. And in addition to his own secrets. That's a lot of secrets.
Oh, that's one thing we didn't touch on with Flash. The security at the particle accelerator, aka Flash's home base.
Yeah.
Pretty much anybody just walks in whenever they want.
Well, it's true, but they don't have any staff, Spencer.
There's zero security there. Everybody has walked into the control center.
It's
like,
true.
Okay.
They shouldn't assume
Although they did
that
make fun
they
of
think
that in the
Starlight
pilot,
is
or
abandoned.
the first episode of season 2.
Yes.
When nobody's ever walking in here again, and then Jay Garrick walks in.
Yeah, and more people know who the Flash is than don't at this point.
Yeah, this is my
That's
thing
true.
about both of the shows. It's like, this is supposed to be a secret
It's
identity.
not really. I mean, Clark Kent. Less people know that Clark Kent is Superman, and he's just wearing a pair of glasses.
Yeah, what the hell, man?
That's maybe the only fault with it, but I understand that those relationships have to exist. It just sometimes feels like if you become friends with either Barry or the Flash, at some point you're going to know that Barry is the
It
Flash.
just happens too fast. Not Tony Stark at a press conference fast. Pretty fast.
I am.
Kylie just watched that.
I just watched Iron Man.
Like,
For the first time.
In a lot of ways.
What?
I'm very one-sided. I'm
Yeah,
catching
we're
up.
trying to change her.
I'm working on it.
Don't change it.
Here, I point out though that the thing about that
Equal.
is in the comics, Barry doesn't care about hiding his identity. Iris makes him, because and everybody
Well, it is
says out
safer.
if you see the Flash and talk to him, you know it's Barry because he doesn't change his voice in the comics anyway. He doesn't change his voice or anything. He doesn't care. And if it comes to saving somebody, he will run in full speed, regular looking, and save them because his
Which
identity.
he does on the show a lot.
Yeah, his identity means nothing to
When
him.
Wally West sees him, because he doesn't know yet that it's him, and then he takes Henry, and then immediately Barry goes right after his dad, and Wally's like, "It was you." I love those moments.
They're all great. They just do feel like they happen too fast sometimes. It's like, hey, can you have stretched that out a little bit? I mean, I guess as
Nah,
the
I don't
web
care.
grows, things...
They don't even have locking doors.
But, and also with the whole
Spencer's still
Barry,
on the Starlab security.
the Barry's identity too. They even made fun of that though when he takes off his mask in front of Diggle's wife. He's like, "Oh, it's Diggle's wife. She knows already." And she's like, "No, I didn't."
So they know. They know.
Yeah, but that's what makes it great though, because they're able to still make jokes at themselves.
Yeah, the fact that they make fun of it kind of excuses it.
Yeah, they're well aware of it. They're just using it to their own device, but it still works. It works better. I still think it works better than like on Arrow.
What did everyone think
Oh.
of Jessie Quick? Or who becomes Jessie Quick? Harrison's daughter.
She's fine.
I didn't have any strong reaction either way
Yeah,
to her. I mean, I
she's
thought
just
she
like-
did well.
She was
Yeah.
an okay actress. I just don't think she really had a scene that really.
Because her and Wally both got hit with the
Yes,
particle
they did.
Oh, yeah.
thing. So that kind of foreshadows that even though they've said they're not going to make him Kid Flash yet, because he was hit with that, and it does kind of foreshadow that
Oh my
they
God,
both
Kid
get.
Flash.
Yeah,
And I love
That's why I've been
part of-
saying it.
And I
Because
love
that's one part of the process. I have a feeling later he's going to get hit by lightning, and it's going to essentially particles and the lightning and finish the process.
Well, I love Joe trying to test it because there's that moment where he's like, "Well, the same thing kind of happened to Barry." He's like, "All right, I see I'm gonna have to force this," and he like drops the mug and it falls. But it's like they're already the hints are there. Even
Well,
if you
Jessie
don't.
Quick is another speedster too.
Yes.
And I would say she probably already had, because I mean, Barry had to call her from when she was in her coma. Barry had to touch her and call her out of it. So I think she already has powers.
But
Speed
she's on
Force.
Earth too right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
I will
Oh,
say,
and
I
in
mean,
the comics, Jessie Quick is Jay's daughter, if anybody's wondering. Jay Garrick's.
Oh. Dun dun dun.
Who knows where they'll go with Harrison Wells next? Just keep Tom Cavanaugh playing
Yes,
versions
please
of Harrison
keep
Wells
Tom.
forever.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yes.
Like Barry Flashpoint, he changes his history. He's gonna have to go get Harry Wells back because the timeline of Earth 2 wouldn't have been changed. Those are going to be the only people that can help him.
My understanding is that when when the Flashpoint happens, Barry returns and starts forgetting the timeline that he is actually from.
Because he changed his own history.
He changes his own history.
But in
so
the
it's-
comics, it doesn't matter. Him and Ugard are the only people who can never be affected by changes to the timeline.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Anybody, and Jay even, speedsters, they're disconnected. That's why
Because
they
of
can.
the Speed Force, because
Yeah.
we do need to talk
about
the
that
Speed
episode
Force.
that Kevin
Like you
Smith
saw one Reverse Flash disappear because his timeline, but then you see him later because at some point while that happened, he was in the Speed Force. He's disconnected from time, same way Barry is.
I just like I'm not a science part of the brain, but there is lots of, it is lots of time travel talkings, but it also, they're very like forthcoming with all the science jargon and whatnot, but I still feel like it makes me smarter watching it. I'm just gonna
Well, I
say.
like that they're constantly saying if you do travel through time, you shouldn't mess with time because. So they do broach the
different ways
common
of-
science theory of if you
Yeah.
go back in time and
Can you
give yourself $1 that's going to be worth $1 million, you're doing a lot more damage to the timeline than just making
Well, yes,
you
and
rich.
we all
Butterfly.
grew up on like Back to the Future and whatnot. Well, I did.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Well, and like Cisco, when he sees the newspaper, oh, what if we change the symbol to white because we saw it? Does that mean like him just trying to...
Yeah, he's got the whole paradoxing himself.
And then in season 2 when Barry runs back and he sees it again and he redoes the whole same excitement, like, wait, are we going to change it now because you're wearing it?
It's so
Again,
sweet.
We haven't talked enough about Cisco because he's just brilliant.
He is seriously awesome.
Well, we keep saying he's brilliant.
That's true.
I mean. So let's talk about the episode that Kevin Smith directed, which is very important because if you recall in season 2, Barry ends up kind of sacrificing his speed to save Wally from Zoom. And then there's this period where he tries to be normal.
Yeah, he goes from being a superhero to a guy that dresses up in leather tights.
Yes, exactly. But then he ends up being drawn in to meet the personification of the source of his power, which is called the Speed Force on the show. And sort of the romantic way he got back to Earth, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I just would like to say that if that were me and I had it had become, at this point, it's so much a part of Barry, his abilities and his, like, power. I thought they did good in showing how a person would react to that. I can't imagine that being me. Like, that's literally now a part of your identity that's, like, ripped away from... I mean, he did choose it for making the right decision and doing the right thing as he always does, but still, it was like, oh, poor Barry.
But then he went and talked to the Speed Force.
That's true. I was just noting that first reaction to it.
Okay. What'd you think? Jen, you're quiet. You get to go
liked it.
first.
I did like that.
You did like
Yeah.
it.
That's all.
I did.
Jen just likes to hear what everybody else has to say.
I like that it was Iris that pulled him out because
Yes.
it's an homage to the comics.
I know. That's what I was talking about.
Because in the comics, when he dies saving the multiverse, and he ends up being pulled into the Speed Force when his body's destroyed. In the comics, Reverse Flash can't deal with that. He can't live without Barry. He can't get him out.
It's a little
Nobody can get him
stalkery,
out.
I'm going to say.
So
It's
he
supposed to be.
what he does is he
Yeah.
broadcasts Iris' voice into the Speed Force until he can lure Barry to come out on his own. Because the whole idea is she's his lightning rod, and he will always, no matter what, come back to her.
And
And
I
then-
love that moment, too, when she's like, no, because, like, Joe's like, all right, Cisco vibes to bring him back, and Joe's like, I'll do it, and then Iris is like, no, let me talk to him, Love it.
And she realizes in the end that she actually does love him. And he's like, man, I got a lot to deal with. It's not that
I've said this, like, every time I've watched it, I'm like, tiny.
I also like Barry's dad and Joe's reaction to Harrison Wells vaporizing Barry.
Yeah.
That was a very good episode.
My reaction to him vaporizing, I was like, what? No!
Oh, and the funny thing is I messed with her. I said that he wasn't going to be on anymore and that Wally was the Flash.
Oh, nice.
I was like, no, this is how Barry dies in the
But you
comics.
can't. I was already in mid-emotion, so normal me
She
would be
started to
like, you're
cry.
stupid.
But emotional, you was like,
He took advantage of my emotions. The serious normal me would be like, Kyle, shut the hell up. But then I was already so into it, I was like, I lost it. No, not Grant, not
high five to Kyle.
Well,
Oh, jeez.
and the whole idea of the concept of the Speed Force, it's so weird and abstract. It could have come off really, really weird and like off-putting. But the way they did it, with it just being his loved ones talking to him, and like this quiet, understated episode after the big explosion and all
The
that.
cinematography of that was beautiful.
I loved the season finale of season 2 so much. Because there was a lot of contrast to the big bombast of season 1 in some ways. Even with the whole running around I don't even know what they called it.
Magnetron.
Magnetron.
Magnetari.
Yeah. It was still big and it was still tense, but it didn't have. It was almost like
It was also still just
opposite.
like a race. Like,
Yeah.
just a race. Everything on the line for who's the fastest.
Exactly. Without the I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. It was
the
a
smartest.
contrast. It was very, very different from season 1, but still equally as emotionally involved.
Yeah.
And just brilliant directing and acting. And I can't laud this show enough. I think everybody else is lauding it pretty well. So...
Oh, and Zoom's not dead, if I was wondering.
no.
He's Black Flash now.
What?
Black Flash. He's the Grim Reaper of Flashes. When a Flash is about to
race.
die, they see the Black
cool.
Flash running next to them. The rays pulled him in, and then
I
he was
guess I
turned in.
forget this part.
The rays grabbed him, and then his face starts to rot, and the bottom part
I
of his
remember
mask,
that.
The bottom part of his mask rots off, and then he's the Black Flash.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which,
I actually looked that up after that episode and saw Black Flash was on it. Oh, that's brilliant.
and it is brilliant, because in the comics, Black Flash doesn't have a backstory. He just, when a Flash is about to die, finally die, they'll see the Black Flash running behind them, and they'll know that it's over, and they can't win.
Oh.
Because the race
They gave him a history, and so I thought that was really cool. Because like in the comics, they're like, why is there this Grim Reaper Flash? That's
And
weird.
the fact that they make it the serial killer, I forget his name.
Hunter.
Hunter Zolomon. The fact that they make it Hunter Zolomon, it lends itself to the character. He still gets to kill, essentially, but in a way that the Speed Force wants him to.
Wow. I didn't look this up. That's cool.
And there's so many little
And the
things
time
like
race
that.
are scary anyway.
Like
Yeah,
Pied Piper is in the comics, he's a villain that becomes a superhero. And in the first season, he's just a one-off villain that's kind of annoying. And then the episode where he
Yes.
goes back in time and essentially turns him into honorary Team Flash member.
Oh yeah, that was really fun. That's true. I forgot about that episode. I loved it. I loved it when they kind of brought back the ones that they had introduced in the first season. I thought the one where they had the trickster working with, who was it? Weather
Toyman.
Wizard and who?
Wasn't it Toyman at one point?
Well, he broke Weather
Oh, no,
Wizard out.
yeah.
When
no, okay.
Captain Cold and
It was
the main,
Captain Cold, the Trickster,
the
and
three
Weather
main
Wizard.
members of the Rogues Gallery.
Right.
And they had them all working together. But I love the fact that in the episode, Captain Cold's like, yeah, these guys are crazy. I'm not working with them.
He's
He's so
excellent.
good.
He's so smarmy, but in the best way.
And funny.
Yes.
We should mention him going back in time and kicking off Flashpoint. Season 2.
Oh yes. Well, go ahead, Kyle.
Epilogue.
The time
He goes
running.
back, he gets sick of history being messed with him and the life he feels like he should have had, so he goes back and just saves his mom, even though he knows that it's wrong. Mm-hmm. And anybody that probably doesn't read the comics is probably going, yay, Barry! And then anybody that reads the comics is like face palming because they know
Well,
that's
anybody
the worst
who
thing
knows
you could
time
do.
travel stories
Well-
know this is a bad thing.
But even anyone that knows Barry Allen, who's always making the moralistically right choice, the moment he makes that choice that is morally wrong, you know there's going to be repercussions.
Yeah.
It's true.
But it
Just
has
like
to
an
happen
example,
at some
he
point.
killed Bruce Wayne. He comes in the comics. He comes back and Bruce Wayne's dead. Like the world is completely worse because of that one death, and then he can't figure it out because in the original timeline his mom should have lived. He feels justified. Like
I was
Reverse
wrong.
Flash took my history from me. Why can't I fix that?
I am so excited.
This season should be brilliant, and we are, 3.5 weeks away?
Not
October
even.
4th.
Yeah, it's October
Oh.
4th, not even.
It's just, all of it is so smart. Even just, I mean, the way that they use, like, everything that Barry has learned to, it finally come, like, because you were talking about Zoom and the Magnetar and how they're, and then he ultimately defeats him by being smarter and using the time remnant to, you know, trick him and defeat him. Just all those, well, they're not really little in some cases, but they all add up to just an amazing story.
I agree. It is, I would agree with Kyle's initial assessment now that we've come through it, and I agreed at the time, but now I'm saying it, that this is probably the best superhero TV show that there has ever been. I cannot think of one that's better in all of the TV shows.
Yeah.
And I watch them all. I mean, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what it is.
Absolutely.
So I think this is really the truest, best representation of the comic book source, and it's so well done. Like, I'm gonna own it. I'll buy it when it's done. I
already
would
do.
rewatch it. Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
just so brilliant and better than its predecessor.
Yeah, the show that Spawn did is second to it.
Yeah, I mean, Steven is very attractive, but it's not his fault.
Grant is adorable.
He's a little young for me, but you can have him.
Okay, love you, Kyle, but Grant, big heart there.
Just saying. So, at this juncture, because I think we've covered just about all the major points, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is there anything else you want to say about seasons 1 and 2 of The Flash, or your hopes for season 3?
I still like all the nods to the other DC characters, because there is the one episode where they use the flash signal. There is in the CCPD wall.
Where'd you come up with that, Cisco? I think a comic book or something.
Like CCPD wall. Kyle mentioned this. I'm giving you due credit because he saw it first. The Justice League is up there.
Yes. I saw that.
And then in Earth 2, it's for a just society.
Yep, I saw that too.
Like, there's just there's so much attention to detail, and that is why it is my current. I love Game of Thrones too. I love Game of Thrones, but yes.
The other little Easter egg in Earth 2 on Barry's speed dial, it's Clark, Bruce,
Yes,
Anna, Ollie.
Yes, just all those little things. It's like you cannot sit.
Yes, hearts. I know. Yes.
I think my only fear for the show is if they, even though the villains are different, that if the main big bad keeps being another speedster.
Which, in season 3, they announced that one of the villains is Savitar, who is a speedster cult leader. But I'm hoping he's not the main villain.
Yeah. I mean, one of the Flash's main villains is Grodd, and I'm hoping that we see a bit more of that, just to give us a rest from other
speedsters.
Tossed
him into another universe, not even Earth 2.
Which makes him more powerful.
Yeah, makes him more powerful. It looks like King Kong's homeworld, actually.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Grodd is a technological genius too, so he will find a way back at some point.
Yeah, and Grodd eventually he's like the most heartless and sadistic of Flash's villains. And he hasn't gotten there yet. Yeah.
I just remember how excited you were because they first showed, when they were walking through Star Laboratories, the shot of like Grodd's broken cage. And you were like, oh,
yeah, that was very cool.
And I thought that was the closest we were going to get.
And then, right. And then the whole thing. Oh.
Well, they did do it just as a tease, and when they did that episode, they did not know they were going to get the budget increase that they got that allowed them to actually do Grodd.
Thank you for increasing the budget, CW Network / Warner Brothers.
It's their most successful show, period.
I know.
By a long way.
Well, you heard in the intro that they haven't seen a series premiere to that kind of numbers since the Vampire Diaries. And up until the Vampire Diaries, they didn't have an equivalent.
No, I mean, Smallville would have probably been their most successful show before that.
Smallville and Supernatural, but it didn't have a rating. It
right
was
away.
A low following at first.
It picked up momentum.
Yeah, it did.
And The Flash has only gotten better, and it was initially fantastic, so...
I mean, I really have no predictions for season 3 myself. I'm just so excited for the ride. It's been such a great ride so far.
Flashpoint lets them do whatever they want.
Pretty much.
And that's
opening portals.
brilliant.
He can run through time. The possibilities are infinite. Literally, it's your Sideways 8.
It would be kind of fun to see him actually have to fuel himself properly at one point, like massive amounts of food.
Yeah.
Like the comic book.
Yeah, that's something that has crossed my mind, ironically. Like,
They've done a little bit of it here and there.
Cisco in one episode mentioned how many calories he has to intake.
Right,
so
and they did show him like
4
walking
pizzas
and eating a
something.
piece of pizza, and they showed like a pile of pizza
Well,
boxes
they talk
or something.
about how he can't get drunk. Like they all go out to the bar,
They
and
do
he's
say that.
like, guys, I think there's a problem. I can't get drunk. And then Caitlin kind of explains about his metabolism and stuff.
Oh, and they make him the super concentrated alcohol. He's like, oh, my fingers are tingly, and it's gone.
I also like how they're starting to make reference, and he even says it to somebody, maybe to Harry at one point. How can I get a ring?
That was really good, because they showed the ring from Reverse Flash.
Yes,
Oh
they
yeah,
did.
well, and when they captured the Reverse Flash before he takes Harrison Wells' face in his origin story, and he's like, "What do you want to ask me, Cisco? How do you get the suit and the ring?" He's like, "All the questions you could ask me, and you want to know about my ring."
Hell yeah.
That's a Cisco.
There's a whole question of physics going on there. Anything else you want to say about season 1, 2, or what you hope to see in 3?
I didn't mean to be loud. I just really like how they balance, again, the action with the interpersonal relationships. Because it is just as much about their relationships between each other as it is like the stories from the comic book and and the action that's happening.
And what they've done so well with that is they've avoided the pitfalls of the soap opera type thing that Arrow got from the interpersonal relationships. While I still love Arrow and look forward to every week, that is a pitfall in that show, is the soap opera relationships.
Because it doesn't feel, it feels, what's
forced.
Yeah.
It's forced. In Flash, it's much more, which is weird to say because it's all about metahumans and superpowers, but it's much more organically introduced than it is in the city where nobody's superpowered. They're all just humans trying to fight corruption and crime. It's forced. I think that Felicity and Ollie were sort of organically brought together because they had such chemistry, and she's so good, and he's so handsome, and whatever you want to say. But then to create drama because they had done that, it's almost like the moonlighting curse. You know, you bring the two characters together that everybody ships for forever, and then they're like, well, now what do I do? Mm-hmm. Let's put some drama in just for the heck of it, because otherwise they're not interesting. Which I don't think is fair, because there's so many complications in their lives.
Yeah.
And they could find a different way to do it, yeah. So
I also like how they, I mean, obviously there's the actual crossover episodes, but even when they're still on their separate shows, they still reference each other.
Yeah.
I love how they're like, oh, Cisco's like, oh, who's the best hacker that you know? And then they're all in the background, Felicity Smoke.
Or just when they Green Arrow announced his name, and they cut to Cisco. Man, I hate when they add colors to this.
Another good moment is actually Felicity and Barry constantly ask about each other because, they were
there was that flirty moment where they had flirtiness.
So, is she single?
Yes.
Which I think is really cute. So, yes, I just love the whole thing, man. It's awesome.
Season 3 promises to be very exciting.
Possibly the best yet.
Oh, quite
well,
possibly.
now there will be even more crossovers.
Their budget again.
Yeah, their budget was upped again.
Oh,
wow!
And their special effects were already fantastic.
It's like fireworks we just watched. Independence Day.
Now, because one of the villains they didn't want to do.
I might edit.
No, you have to leave that in.
Leave it now because it's just funny.
Go, Kyle!
They did announce for season 3 they're introducing Mirror Master, who's one of his rogues. They didn't want to do him before because his powers are very special effects related,
yes,
and they didn't think they'd have enough budget to
I'm
actually do
excited
justice.
for that one, actually.
And really, he's the last of the core rogues that needed to be introduced.
Any reflective surface he can travel through, correct?
Yeah, and he travels through a whole different mirror dimension, and he can pull people through it, and
he's actually one of my favorites, too. I don't know, maybe it's Alice in Wonderland. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
I actually just saw him in an episode of the Justice League Unlimited on Netflix, and that was a good episode.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
That's exciting. I'm very excited. I can't say that more times. I've said it enough. Are you going to keep watching?
I don't know.
Really?
If it's on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't have anything else better to watch. Consider it.
Does anybody know what else comes on
Like
Tuesday
some kind
at
of
night?
medieval Game
Does
of
it
Thrones
even matter?
chair
Yeah,
swapping
right?
thing.
I tracked you. And would you recommend this show to others? Why or why not?
Well, we recommended it to you.
I have been recommending it to others the whole time, even people who I know aren't into nerdy comic book things. I'm like, just watch the damn show.
Do they watch it?
Yes!
Do they love it?
Yes.
Everyone I know that's seen it loves it.
yeah.
I honestly think that anybody who just wants a really good, action-packed, character-driven show would instantly be pleased watching The Flash. Just because it's comic booky, just because it's superhero, don't focus on that if that's not your usual cup of tea. It's just a really, really well-told story. And that's my highest praise, because like Hilary mentioned, she likes character. I go straight for, tell me the story. Does the story make sense? And am I entertained? And all of those things happen in The Flash.
Well, it's one of those things, every time an episode's done, me and Kyle would discuss, and he would answer my questions. But then, like, the next day I'd go to work because I have friends at work who are just as equally into it. And we'd seriously, any moment we could sneak away to talk about what just happened. I mean, that's the kind of excitement that you should be getting from, I think, entertainment. So,
And like most of these comic book shows, you're like, okay, this is this version of the comic book. This is their interpretation. With this, it is the Barry Allen I grew up with. It is the Captain Cold and all of them. Like these are the characters I feel like I'm already friends with because I grew up with them in the comics.
It's just cemented for me that, I mean, the Flash, Superman and Batman are still my favorite, but Flash would probably be number 3 for me, and has been for a while.
This show has brought the Flash into my consciousness as one of my favorite.
I think it's
superheroes.
probably already started to do that for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, I mean, like you said, we all grew up with the same Superman and Batman flicks and whatnot. Like, we all know them, but not as many people except for, like, hardcore, true comic book readers, like Kyle, really knew as much about it.
Well, now we can wait and watch the movie version of Flash completely suck.
Oh, it's
I
just
don't know
nice
that it
for
will.
Oh, I
They
remember.
turned him into a slacker because they wanted him to be like Quicksilver from X-Men. Because Quicksilver was critically reviewed as the best part of those X-Men movies.
That's a shame.
So if you watch Batman vs. Superman, they turned him into a slacker, geek,
Because I
awkward
can't-
His bit in Suicide
Yeah.
Squad was lame.
I haven't seen Suicide
Let's
Squad.
talk
I don't
about
either.
But
how I
I-
don't want Ezra Miller to be the Flash.
the trailer for the Justice League.
They actually toned him down to make him more like Peter Parker now, because in Civil War, Peter Parker got the
God's
best reviews.
sakes.
They can't, because if you watch Batman vs. Superman, he has long hair and like a bunch of coats and hipstery coats.
Like,
and
why
stuff
are you
on,
trying
and
to
he's all
copy
super-
Marvel? Just be
and
your own character.
So that's what they said they were going to do with him. Then they fired that director.
But that's not even like how Marvel
And
is.
Tom Holland's Spider-Man got a lot of great reviews. So
Because
now they
it's
turned
great.
him into Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
I wonder what we have to do to Warner Brothers executives to get them to stop interfering in the comic
They need to
law.
stop watching Marvel movies.
Stop
and
trying to
worrying
copy
about
the
it.
Marvel
Just make it its
universe. Just
own.
be your own thing. That's why
That's
everyone
why
has loved
they're
DC
failing.
as long.
That's why they're failing. They're not allowing their universe to be itself.
Stop. You don't have to copy their formula. You don't have to.
I guess I just liked the scene between Affleck and Ezra Miller in that trailer. It was a cool scene.
Have you seen Batman vs. Superman yet?
Yeah.
Like, also in like the special features, you get to see more of Justice League stuff. But like the stuff that they had filmed with him as the slacker version of Barry was so terrible. And
That would bother me.
They fired that director and hired a new one just based on that.
I thought it was the same director for Batman, Superman, and Justice League.
League, but they hired a different director for Flash, the
Ah.
Flash standalone movie.
Oh, I didn't even know. It was
and they had
coming.
already
Now all
started.
the individual members are getting all solo movies.
I knew Wonder Woman was coming. I didn't
Yeah.
realize the Flash one was.
That
That's a shame.
director had
I'm excited for Wonder
complete
Woman.
say over
I'm not
Barry
excited
Allen's
for
look
the-
and
Yeah.
personality,
Wonder Woman
and they
previous
fired him over it
Amazing.
because
I'm
of negative
thrilled.
backlash.
I hope she finally gets her justice.
That's
no
a
pun
different
intended.
podcast.
No
Yeah, we will
pun
at some point
intended.
have to have a DC movies podcast.
Well, we kind of will, sort of, in our live podcast.
That's true.
I can talk about Swamp
Foreshadowing.
Thing.
Okay.
And 30 seconds later, we'll talk about the rest of the DC universe.
For right now, is there anything additional you'd like to say about the Flash TV show?
If you just listen to this and you haven't watched it, you know everything that's going to happen, but watch it anyway.
Yes, it's totally worth it. We spoiled a bunch, but you
Yeah.
will still be entertained.
For all the good stuff we talked about, I mean,
There's even more.
I mean, even the weakest
There's-
episodes have.
There's no, but they're not weak.
I mean, I'm just saying the weakest episodes of The Flash are still
Relatively,
better than
yeah.
90% of the rest
Everything
of
else.
television now.
Especially Game of Thrones. Ugh.
Hey,
Nobody watches.
Musical chairs in medieval times, I don't get it.
that is not what it is.
He's totally gonna knock off other people that listen to your thing.
Don't alienate the Game of Thrones people.
They're not going to be alienated. They know I'm just being silly. It's what I do.
It is what he does. Well, we could talk about The Flash for 6 more hours, but we're not going to.
Yeah, my wife
Because
would kill us.
That's
We're not
true.
going to cover the 90s version?
No, that's a different podcast. But there are still more episodes in our DCTU series because there are 4 shows altogether. So the next episode that you hear the DCTU panel reconvene, it will be to discuss season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow, which we've already hinted at. It's probably not going to be quite so gushing and effusive with love. But that's okay, because it can't always be. Until that time, I'd like to thank Jen, Spencer, Kyle, and Hilary for joining me once again on the DCTU panel. If you didn't already catch it from the intro, there are several episodes coming down the pike. We always have new episodes coming down the pike. There'll be new panels introduced in the future. We have another live podcast on tap. Make sure that you subscribe to couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com. Like us on Facebook, because that's where our live stream goes. Follow us on Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram. And also find us at our iTunes channel, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, and what was the fourth one? There's just so many. YouTube. We're everywhere. I might find new places to put us. Until that time, as Hilary mentioned, brand new episodes of The Flash premiere October 4 on the CW. Make sure you keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned. Bye.